32 and not 33, when the Act provides for 34 members of staff. On international trips, since retirement, the former President Uhuru Kenyatta has undertaken several official trips related to the roles and duties he has engaged in, and only 2 such trips have been honored. The trip to Ethiopia on matters concerning the peace process led by the African Union, and the one to Burundi that was the 11th summit of the heads of state and government of the East African Community on the issues pertaining to the peace process in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The office did submit other requests for facilitation of trips, but received no response.
The spokesperson for the former President Uhuru Kenyatta has further revealed that the security detail for the former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta has not been reinstated since it was withdrawn in July 2023 by the current government. Addressing the media, Kanzedena stated that the benefits amounting to 50% of the former president's entitlement have not been provided to the former First Lady as required by the law. Kanze, however, clarified that the vehicles currently used by Mama Ngina were given to her by the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi and the late President Mwai Kibaki during their respective tenures.
So as pertains the Act, we all know that Her Excellency Mama Ngina Kenyatta, in her capacity as a former First Lady and surviving spouse of the late President Jomo Kenyatta, is entitled to benefits amounting to 50% of her husband's pension. The 3 Range Rovers that Her Excellency Mama Ngina Kenyatta has in her possession were allocated to her by the late President Daniel Arap Moi and the late President Mwai Kibaki during their respective tenures, and replaced accordingly after every 3 years, that is. Now, clearly, the government spokesperson said that they gave her the cars, but clearly the government of the day has not provided her with any vehicles. In fact, we would like to clarify that on the 18th of July 2023, at 7 p.m., all her drivers and security detail allocated to her were withdrawn from their residences via phone. The claims in the media that personnel were reinstated is false. To cap it all, fuel cards for her vehicles were also blocked since March 2023 to date, and vehicle maintenance denied. She fuels and maintains these government vehicles, one of which has been unserviceable for approximately over 1 year. We do note that there are other beneficiaries of the Presidential Retired Benefits Act, which include the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the first retired Vice President, Honorable Mudi Awori, and the second retired Vice President, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. We also know that the current Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, was also a beneficiary of this office before his new role in the current government. While the picture painted by Mr. Mwaura of the government's commitment to support the office of the retired president in accordance to the law is the ideal situation, it saddens this office to inform the public that unfortunately that picture does not exist. And our worry as an office is a precedence that is being set by the government of the day. Their decision to blatantly ignore execution of the Presidential Act No. 11 of 2023 seems to open up a Pandora's box that will leave a retired head of state at the mercy of the government of the day. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat everywhere, whatever affects one directly or indirectly.
The National Council of Churches of Kenya has led Kenyans in opposing the 2024 finance bill, which aims to increase taxes. The chairman of the NCCK, Canon Charles Kariuki, called for the removal of the proposed taxes on vehicles, stating that Kenyans are already paying taxes on fuel and other essential goods. Some individuals who submitted their suggestions during the public hearings of the bill at the Kenyatta International Convention Center called for the removal of taxes on essential goods used by Kenyans, arguing that the bill would further oppress the citizens.
On the tax which is being introduced to motor vehicle and just the impact and the effect it will cause to the insurance industry. The motor vehicle tax will be payable at the time of issuance of insurance. And as far as I'm concerned, the end or the consumer, the direct consumer is the one who will be affected because insurance comes in two forms, third party and comprehensive. So when the end consumer pays either 5,000 or 100,000, it means that many people will shy off from owning the asset, which is the vehicle, and also the impact which will cause the insurance penetration rate in Kenya is at 2.29% as per now. So this rate is still very low. And as you know, that insurance industry is offering a lot of job opportunities to the Kenyans of this country. So when this insurance is introduced, remembering that there are so many levies which are already being paid at the insurance industry. We have IPF, we have ITL, we have stamp duty, and we also have importation duty at the inception when the owner is getting the vehicle. So I feel like this is double taxation and it will kill the insurance industry. So I'm here to present the insurance industry that this levy should be checked on, either defined well or see what you can do, because it will reduce the job creation in this country, Kenya. Maybe the last thing what I can say, because I am the champion for youth also, I run a Youth for Change and Transformation initiative. I interact with so many youth on the issue of illicit brew or alcohol. What we can do is not just to introduce taxes. What we need to do is to do civic education and empowerment on youth.
The Interior Cabinet Secretary, Professor Kithure Kindiki, has launched the fourth and final phase of the Kenya Vision 2030 plan in Marsabit County. Speaking at the launch, CS Kindiki said that this phase, known as Better, focuses on investment in agriculture, health, housing, business, the digital economy, and innovation sectors to strengthen the economic pillars.
I am delighted to preside over the launch of the fourth medium-term plan covering the period 2023 to 2027, which marks the final 5-year plan of the Kenya Vision 2030, launched in 2008. The Kenya Vision 2030 stands out as our nation's ambitious long-term development blueprint designed to elevate Kenya into a newly industrializing middle-income country, ensuring a high quality of life for all citizens in the year or by the year 2030. This vision is grounded on economic, social, and political pillars, fortified by key enablers identified to propel us towards our collective aspirations. Since its inception, significant progress has been achieved in realizing the goals set forth in the Kenya Vision 2030 through the implementation of preceding medium-term plans. Yet, our economy continues to grapple with fundamental challenges, including widening inequality, low productivity, and sustainability to economic shocks. These challenges demand urgent and resolute interventions to regain lost ground and align ourselves with our aspirations. This is why, upon assuming office, our administration pledged to spearhead a radical economic turnaround, fostering inclusive growth and enhancing the livelihoods and welfare of all citizens, particularly those at the bottom of the pyramid. These commitments are intricately detailed within the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, Better.
On Monday afternoon, President William Ruto signed into law the 2024 Supplementary Budget Bill and the 2024 Revenue Allocation Bill. Speaking after the signing ceremony, the head of state stated that the new laws would ensure sufficient funding for economic recovery projects and improve the delivery of government services. The government has now been authorized to spend 102 billion shillings, which will be utilized by various government institutions and ministries. The supplementary budget has been reduced to 132.4 billion with 51 billion shillings allocated for salaries and 75.2 billion for development projects in the 2024-2025 financial year.
Certain humanitarian measures in areas that have been hit by the subsidy for fertilizer. There are also certain funds which have been currency is to allow the national government, that is with respect to the supplementary appropriation bill.
Now, the Interior CS, Professor Kithure Kindiki, has shared his views on the resource allocation debate based on population in different areas, which is commonly known as the one man, one vote, one shilling. In Marsabit, Kindiki emphasized that they will not allow leaders to endorse a system that promotes tribalism and division in Kenya. He added that all regions in the country deserve equal resource allocation. His statements were supported by Marsabit County Governor Mohamed Ali, who commended Kindiki for opposing the controversial one man, one vote, one shilling system.
Na juzi nimeona ya kwamba kuna watu wengine baina yetu viongozi na wananchi wameendelea na mijadala ambayo ni mijadala mizuri katika nchi ambayo ni nchi ya demokrasia. Kuna wengi pia wamesema kuna uwezekano wa kubadilisha mfumo uliopo wa ugavi wa mali ya taifa la Kenya. Na sisi kama nchi ya kidemokrasia hatuna shida na mtu yeyote ambaye ako na maoni ambaye ako nayo. Ile tumekataa na ambaye ni kinyume na katiba ya nchi ya Kenya ni mtu yoyote wa kiwango chochote kujaribu kugawa ama kuwawanyisha wananchi wa taifa la Kenya kwa misingi ya kimaeneo ama misingi ya kiukoo na ukabila. Hiyo hatutakubali. Na mimi nataka niseme hivi kama waziri wenu wa usalama wa taifa ya kwamba mwananchi wowote katika sehemu yoyote ya Kenya ako na haki ya kupata huduma za serikali na kupata rasilimali na maendeleo ya kutosha kama sehemu zile zingine. We cannot encourage a situation where we start discriminating against any part of our country. Lamu ni Kenya, Marsabit ni Kenya, Kisumu ni Kenya, Kericho ni Kenya. Every of our 47 counties is an important component of our republic.
Vile vile nataka kushukuru wewe. Wakati wengine walikuwa wanasema one shilling, one vote, or population, or nini, wewe mwenyewe kupitia kwa Twitter yako ukasema lazima maendeleo ya taifa letu liangazie sehemu yote ya taifa, sio ati sehemu chache. Ukaendelea kusema sehemu kame ya taifa letu pia ni taifa letu la Kenya, lazima wao pia waangaliwe vilivyo. Kwa hivyo kuna mmoja alikuwa anasema tetea sisi. Tayari yeye ni mtetezi nambari ya kwanza na tunamtambua sana.
Human rights organizations in Bungoma County are calling on Chief Justice Martha Koome and the Commissioner for Justice and Legal Affairs to intervene and ensure justice for victims of gender-based violence in the county. While addressing the media in Bungoma earlier on Monday, activists claimed that there has been laxity in handling defilement cases, with perpetrators allegedly being released and cases dismissed. They expressed concern that this poses a significant threat to women at the community at large.
Kuna ile inaitwa rescue center. Rescue center ya gender based violence. Hiyo rescue gender based violence ya Ndengelwa haijakuwa operationalized. Kwa sababu gani? Kumekuwa na mvutano kati ya county women representative, amekatalia hiyo jengo, ameifanya kama ofisi yake. Sisi tunataka county women representative aachilie hilo jengo ili lisaidie wananchi wa Bungoma.
We see Bungoma County at 62% in defilement and sexual gender-based violences, and the perpetrators are set free. Some of them, they are just doing the perpetration from this kid to the other kid, and there's no justice that is being done. So we are calling upon the relevant authorities.
Tutaendelea hata tutafikia president mpaka watoto wa kike watapata haki hapa hapa Bungoma, ndio pia cases za defilement zirudi chini, kwa sababu tumechoka. Tuko na enough evidence, tuko na enough information zenye tumecollect from all the relevant authorities, especially from prosecution na hata kwa polisi. Tumetembea huko mara mingi, tuko na evidence. Hakuna vile mahakama inaweza tu challenge, it's just playing with English, na wanaachilia perpetrator wakienda huko nje pia wanaendelea kusumbua watoto.
All right, let's take a look at the newspapers, who is making headlines and why. And this has got largely to do with one of the headlines that really blew up yesterday, and that is concerning the office of the former president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. And on the Standard newspaper this morning, we've got Uhuru turns to God in Ruto money fight. Uhuru turns to God in Ruto money fight. Pay me my dues. Asking God to save us all. Former president says he has been forced to foot his bills. Contrary to the law, he wonders why State House has not remitted money to his office, yet it is in the budget. According to Kanzedena, Uhuru Kenyatta's office spokesperson says the lack of access to our rightful budget allocation has forced retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to run the office from his pocket, paying for all the bills the office incurs. And so that was the explosive statement that was released yesterday by Kanzedena, who's the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's spokesperson. She's the previous State House spokesperson. Now, the retired president says the Kenya Kwanza is starving his office of cash and entitled benefits. And this is a requirement by the law on the Retirement Benefits Act, an act that serves to, to continue funding offices of former heads of state and former, offices like the vice president or the deputy president's office, the office of the prime minister. And so, Kanze says Uhuru pays for his own office, fuels his official car, and caters for expenses such as foreign and domestic travels, car repairs, and needs of staff allocated to him. The former president's spokesperson says Parliament allocated 655 million shillings to the office in the financial year 2022-2023, but only 28 million shillings has been released. Now, she said the budget for the financial year 2023-2024 was 503 million shillings, but no single coin has been released so far. So we take a break. When we come back, I'll be, talking more about this, as well as linking it to what is on the Daily Nation that also speaks of where is Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings funding. Conversation returns in a bit. Stay with us. All right, so still on the dailies, still on the Standard, Uhuru turns to God in Ruto money fight. On the issue of the retired president, Dena Kanze says the Kenya Kwanza administration, led by President William Ruto, has not committed to pay rent and other charges. She dismissed assertions that Uhuru enjoys a fully furnished and maintained office of his choice provided for by the government, noting that since his exit from power, the issue of the office has not been resolved. And, you know, from what the details have emerged is that Uhuru Kenyatta had requested a particular office, but the government has insisting that, you know, Kenyatta should use the office that was used by the former late President Mwai Kibaki. In recent communication, State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said the former head of state was allocated a fully furnished office in Upmarket Nyari in Nairobi. However, Kanzedena noted that the Nyari office was selected by the late President Mwai Kibaki as a suitable office for himself, and Uhuru Kenyatta subsequently selected an office for himself, but has not been provided that office. Now, she further disclosed that Uhuru opted to use offices within his private home near State House, and that a formal letter was written to State House requesting valuation of the office that was identified by Uhuru as suitable for him to carry out his duties. Now, of course, this further plunges the relationship between the former head of state and the sitting head of state, and there's a popular term that is now called Uhuruto Season 2. And so initially last year we saw what was, you know, that explosive late night press statement by the former head of state who was at, you know, his son's place. There were claims that their security had withdrawn, and he went there and explosively said, you know, the government has been hell-bent on attacking his family, but he says they should attack him instead. And so now we've got the issue of, you know, these benefits that are supposed to, constitutionally, they are supposed to be remunerated to these particular offices, and this has been entrenched in the Retirement Benefits Act, which gives the head of state, you know, to enjoy some of the benefits, including vehicles, entertainment allowance, medical insurance, you know, office personnel. I've also got international trips. If he'd love to take about 2 international trips, the government caters for that. But according to the State House spokesperson, that is yet to be. Also, top of the page on the Standard newspaper, reject punitive taxes, hustlers plead with members of parliament. Reject punitive taxes, hustlers plead with members of parliament. Now, on the final day of submissions and public hearings characterized by heckling and criticism, Kenyans asked the Committee on Finance to have the Parliament amend what they feel would make their lives worse off, including the exemption of VAT on bread, the exemption of a car tax on motor vehicle, which was about 2.5% of the value of the car, with a minimum of 5,000 to 100,000 shillings remunerated, amongst other taxes, including taxation on eco-levy, which, you know, a lot of stakeholders have come out to say, you know, there's no specific target on what exactly you know, pollutes the environment, and if you find a particular substance, you know, pollutes the environment, then that is what should be tasked. And so, reject punitive taxes. Yesterday was the last day of the public hearings, and so the Finance Committee will retreat, write a report, table it in Parliament ahead of the budget reading, which is set for Thursday, 13th of June. So that is the headline on the Standard. Also, secondary schools to lose 20 billion shillings thanks to CBC. Macron big gamble on snap-pause, that is on the World International or the World News, as well as Starlets inches away glory. Like I said yesterday, if Starlets make it to the World Cup, they will be the first Kenyan team to make it to the World Cup. And so all hands, you know, or at least all wishes for them as well. So to the Daily Nation, where is Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings funding? Where is Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings funding? The big question. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday demanded to know whereabouts of funds allocated to his office in the past 2 financial years, even as he accused State House of frustrating him and his family from accessing their constitutional sanctioned benefits in the ongoing feud with his successor. Now, according to the Daily Nation, the budget at Mr. Kenyatta's office was allocated, which was 655 million shillings and 503 million in the 2022-2023, 23-24 fiscal years respectively, but only 28 million shillings has been remunerated out of 655. So question is, where's the 643? Now, the retired president has declined to take up Nyari office that was used by the late President Mwai Kibaki. He months his own office. On vehicles, the former head of state says he's using old fleet and has to meet fuel and maintenance costs. On security, the office claims former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta's security detail was recalled and never reinstated. So where's Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings funding? That is the headline that is on the Daily Nation this morning. Uhuru takes on State House in Funds Row, and it's basically no more or less the same issue as well that has been printed out on the Standard newspaper, which speaks of the Retirement Benefits Act. Some of these things that are entrenched in the Constitution, according to Kanzedena, she says, are not being met by the government. But in a quick rejoinder later on, government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura, addressed some of these issues. One, on the fleet of vehicles, he says Uhuru's demanding vehicles which are expensive, totaling about 140 million shillings. On the office space, he says Uhuru cannot be a landlord and a tenant at the same time. On the issue to do with, the renewal of contracts for 2 persons, including Kanzedena Mararo herself, government spokesperson says that, the request was not submitted to the State House Comptroller, and so that is on the Daily Nation. Also, JSS tutors sacked 2 days after calling off strike. Teacher Service Commission cracks the whip, and thousands of junior school teachers on contract have been sent home 2 days after calling off their strike. The letters issued by the Teacher Service Commission cited professional misconduct as the reason for terminating of the contracts. And so JSS tutors sacked. This is likely to also, cause a bigger uproar, and perhaps a back to the street protest could be looming following that decision by the JSS or by the TSC to sack JSS teachers. Now, the number of junior secondary school teachers hired as interns is at 7,357. The date indicated on the letter of termination for the intern teachers is June 6th, and although they were disbursed to the head teachers yesterday, now TSC cited misconduct in their actions. And so that is the headline on the Daily Nation, weighs Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings. So that is on the newspapers this morning. All right, so allow us to take a quick breather, but when we come back, we'll be getting into the conversation this morning that has got to do with bipolar disorder. What is it exactly? How does it come about? How do we manage it? As well as how do we manage and treat it? And is it treatable for that matter? So your feedback is highly welcomed across our social media platforms. On EBN TV, the SMS feedback line is 23059. So let me introduce my guest in studio this morning. I'm joined by a counseling psychologist, Gloria Kuria. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Right, so this is a word that we see a lot of times or hear a lot of times. We've had, even in movies, there's a bipolar disorder. We've had it as well in real life situation, bipolar disorder, but people really never understand what this is. So perhaps you can just start by defining what bipolar disorder is.
Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder whereby you are on the extremes, either on the extreme high or on the extreme low. The extreme high is called the mania, and the extreme low is called the depressive episode. Mm-hmm. So basically, you undergo episode of extremes. You're either on the extreme end or the other extreme end on the lower side. Right. Yes.
You said extreme high mania.
Yes.
What is that mania?
So mania means, how can I explain it? You're extremely, let's say, agitated, extremely happy, extremely, you're on the extreme side of the highs, your highs, you see. So you can find when someone is on mania, the manic episode, they are extremely reckless, You can find them, they're extremely agitated, they are easily, you know, poked, they are really angry maybe all the time, they are making reckless decisions. This is where they can misuse all the money they have saved for all their life and use it to go somewhere. So this is a period when they have an extreme, let's call it grandiose, you know. They believe they can do anything, including, you know, they say they can fly. They talk about interesting things such as I am the savior, you know, some things that are a bit off, you see.
So the extremeness of this you know, condition, is that what makes it a disorder?
Yes. Basically, your moods are supposed to be at a certain scope, you see. You're not supposed to go above a certain scope of let's call them the barriers, you see. So when you go to the extreme low, we call it depressive episode. When you go to the extreme high, we call it the manic episode. Yes.
And so what triggers this, you know? It has got to have a starting point. So what exactly, you know, triggers it? How does it come about? Because there are persons who have been really well, and then all of a sudden, you know, they've got these extreme levels of you know, a high mania as well as the extreme low of it. So what exactly triggers it?
So number one, I would like to say it's a bit genetic. So when you have bipolar, you can find there's a close relative who has had it also. So it lies around your genes. Number two, stressful episodes of life can trigger bipolar. When you have had deeply stressful episodes of life that you have not been able to manage, your emotions, your moods can get to the extremes. Number three, drugs. Drugs can really trigger a person to have bipolar. You see, when you use drugs, it's messing around with your moods. It's messing around with your hormones. So the hormones that are supposed to do a specific job, they are doing it either extremely or they have been reduced to a certain amount. So bipolar, that is where it comes in now. You see, you're not able to control your moods by yourself because the drugs has conditioned your body to be at a certain way. So
you know, I'll go back to the genetic factor because it is unavoidable. We all have got a genetic line that we follow, you know, various people. So how now do we deal with the genetic one? You know, do you have to have done a background research at least to understand what are these underlying conditions that run in the family, as well as how can you avoid bipolar if it's, you know, it's in the family?
If it's in the family, you know, the way you can, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but when you know you have a gene of diabetes in your family, you don't just eat any food, you know, you don't just live any lifestyle. So that because you understand that I am different, I am more prone to this disease. The same with bipolar. When you understand and you see that, by the way, I have family members who have this and this and that, you avoid, and you also don't have the same, you avoid such things as drugs, you learn how to manage stress, you just learn. And you have asked about genetics. I have encountered people who have bipolar, and you know, you never know. You see?
Right. I'm being informed your mic has a problem, so we'll come back and pick it from that point. But allow us to take a quick breather, fix it very quickly. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
So you had asked, how can we manage? More like, how can you prevent yourself from getting bipolar? One, you could not just try not to live like other people, you know. When you have a diabetic gene in your family, you don't just live like other people, you don't just eat the kind of foods other people eat, you know, you have to take care of your health. So the same to bipolar. avoid drugs. This is not just for family or the genetic factor. This is something that I think most of us, if possible, we should not be using on a daily basis, because drugs are just messing around with our biological factors, with our hormones, so making us prone to diseases like bipolar. So when you start abusing a drug and you have a recessive gene of bipolar in your family, if you were to get the onset of bipolar supposed to begin later in life, it will begin earlier in your life. You see? So
is there a stipulated age to which somebody can be affected? Do we have young kids that are affected with bipolar?
Yes, we have young kids that are affected with bipolar, but a very few number. The most age that is affected, that data has shown, is the young people. In your early 20s, in your late teens, early 20s, that is when the bipolar is usually seen.
Right. Now that we've understood what are some of the things that may trigger it, how does a person that has been, I'm trying to find the word, a person that has gone for professional help and has been, declared has got this disorder, the bipolar disorder, how do they look like? How do they behave? What are some of the things that I'm able, as a third party to look at and say, also, this is somebody that has bipolar disorder? What are some of the symptoms that, for lack of a better word, that they're able to show?
So we had described bipolar as a mood disorder with either the extreme highs or the extreme lows. So there are majorly two types of bipolar, bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 1, you are experiencing the extreme mania and depressive episode. Bipolar 2, you are experiencing hypomania and depressive episode. I want to differentiate quickly between the mania and the hypomania. Mania can take you to hospital. Mania can get you arrested. Mania can make you commit suicide, same as depression there. But hypomania, you are just, you are lacking sleep. There's a lot of talking. You are, a lot of talking, lacking of sleep. There are great ideas, but it is not easy for a person who is undergoing hypomania to actually be hospitalized or to get arrested. They're just in a hyper mood, extremely hyper mood. But the mania one, you are actually getting into trouble with officials and, the police, people in your family. As a third party, you could notice this because, number one, you know this person, and these experiences and characteristics are slightly above the normal, and you will notice them because if someone is telling you they want to save Kenya, now that is not a joke, especially if you know this person has bipolar. Now you start noticing that, by the way, hey, this and this and that, my friend, she's undergoing an episode right now. She's undergoing an episode, and there are also times in the depressive mode when they are not able to wake up. They go from 100 to 0, very fast. It goes very fast from 100 to 0. They don't want to wake up. They can't take care of themselves. They can't. Now they hate everything. They can't do anything. You see. So those are some of the characteristics that you will be able to see when someone is in the manic state and in the low depressive state.
Right. From your experience, if you work in a mental health facility, and obviously there are so many different cases that you tend to. But is this a disorder that a lot of people are aware about? Is there a common knowledge about it just from the cases that you've been able to deal with?
It is very interesting that it is not not many people know it, but we thank God for social media. If we compare 10 years ago and now, at least you have gone at least 20% in the knowledge part. At least now we can go and take this person to a mental facility and say, this and this is happening. Back then it was really bad. These people are being prayed for, being beaten, being closed, kufungiwa and such. But right now, at least we are seeing a slight improvement. But still we have a place to go. We need to be somewhere, because still some people don't think it's a real issue. Some people think people are seeking attention. They are going crazy. And one thing about people with bipolar, they are not, if you're there at home and you're having bipolar, you are not your thoughts. You are not what you're thinking, you're not what your mind is telling you to do, and you can manage that disorder. It is manageable totally. So as a society, as a community, we need to up our game on education, and also we as the people on the mental health setup, we have to up our game on educating people, because people think it's demons and kurogwa, you know, the normal African mentality that we might be having.
Right. So we'll come to the social stigma so that we can expound more on you know, what are some of the programs that we can take just to deal with the stigma that comes around it. However, let's talk about treatment now. Because, you know, you've been able to categorically state that, you know, there's bipolar 1 and there's bipolar 2. And so let's now factor in treatment of these particular stages. Is treatment for one different from treatment from bipolar 2? And what exactly is the treatment? So
the treatment, they're both called mood stabilizers. So the one for bipolar 1 will not be the same as the one for bipolar 2, because the one for bipolar 1 is bringing the manic state down and just basically stabilizing the moods. And the one for bipolar 2, this person for bipolar 2 is also experiencing highs, but not extreme highs, but slightly higher than yours, but slightly lower than the manic stage. That's why it's called hypomania. But basically they use mood stabilizers. So
is that something they can access in the hospitals?
Yes.
So what is the period treatment for it? You know, when somebody has been diagnosed with it, what is the period treatment?
So bipolar meds, you don't stop. So you just keep on taking them and taking them and taking them. But there is research that shows that you can actually manage bipolar without medication. But this is for someone, you know, when we say we can manage bipolar without medication, it's not for someone who has actually realized that they have bipolar now. When you have realized that you have bipolar now, you need a lot of support. You actually need a lot of, you know, social support, medication, seeing your therapist. Let's say someone who has lived with bipolar for a while, now those ones, they have now accepted the disorder. Actually, the thing we are struggling with is the acceptance. People are in denial. They are not able to accept that, by the way, I am this and this and that. And sometimes they cannot 100% remember what they were doing in their especially in their manic episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Their memory, they cannot really remember 100%. They can remember some of it, they can remember others. And then, you know, when you are trying to level up as a person, this is who I am and this is what I was doing. No, it cannot be me. You see, there's a lot of denial. So these people need a lot of support, a lot of medical attention, and a lot of therapy, talk therapy, before we say we can now manage this without medication. So what I would advise is be consistent with your medication. When you stop taking medication, your mood stabilizers, that is when your episodes now start kicking in again.
What is one of the biggest risk factor when someone doesn't really adhere to the regime? You know, they've been diagnosed by a professional, they have been able to, you know, begin using mood stabilizers, but they're not really consistent with it. They stop. What is the biggest risk factor that may arise from a situation like that?
So when you stop taking medications, that is like you're 100% you're going to relapse. You're going to experience episodes. The mood stabilizers are there to help you so that you cannot experience other episodes. But besides the medication, there are other methods you can use, like having routines, so that you can so that when you're in your low or in your high, your moods and the routines have already, your body has been used to certain routines, so you're not going to be in the extremes, you see. But when you stop medication, I know I have experienced many bipolar patients, and not only bipolar, even the other mental issues, they are not really adherent to medication. And I totally understand there's a type of way the medication makes someone feel, but this is for your own good. When you don't use the medication, you're going to relapse.
Now, from what I've picked from your statement, Gloria, is that routine is very important.
Yes.
Because, it is the routines that are able to really determine, whether this is, at the mania stage or the hypomania stage. And so, basically, what sort of routine should somebody that has been diagnosed with bipolar have? And I'm imagining a situation of ones that have been admitted or have checked into a mental health facility, and there are those that have not checked into their facility, but they're just following, the medication from home. What sort of routine should they basically be having?
So routines are, maybe you might also be having a routine. So routine, you can take your meds the same time every day. If it's 8 o'clock, I take my meds at 8 o'clock. If I eat at this time, this is the time I eat. If I do exercises at this time, this is the time I do my exercise. So just basic routines that, everyone practices. If I shower this time, let me shower at this time, and this time. So just when, let's say, for example, you are doing a skincare routine, a body routine, just anything, just do it at the same time every day. That will help you. Besides helping you to manage the disease, it actually helps you to know, the episodes will not get you off guard. You will start to feel some type of way, and you will ask for help. You'll tell your parents, tell your therapist that, by the way, I am feeling this and this and that. What can I do? And before the episode becomes extreme, you have already received help.
What does the diagnosis entail for you professionals? What are some of the things that you're able to look at so that you can diagnose somebody, this is somebody that has got bipolar disorder? Because I believe the biggest challenge may be that persons are self-diagnosing themselves, not just with bipolar, but with so many diseases. Somebody says, yesterday I was so happy, today I feel so sad, I definitely have bipolar. But there has to be a system or a way in which professionals are able to diagnose bipolar. So what does it entail?
So last time we had also talked about people self-diagnosing. And we have had many times people saying, I am bipolar. And this is just a change of moods, especially for ladies. Hormones can play around with you so much until you think, hey, I might be bipolar, but not really. So bipolar, we check the time. So how long have you been having these symptoms? And let's say from 6 months and above. If you have been having these symptoms when, like, for example, the extremeness, how have they been occurring, since when, you see, such things. But basically that the before we look at the before. How have you been managing? How have been the symptoms been like for you, you see? So
in that moment when professionals are doing that diagnosis, have we had instances where there's that, sort of rejection from the patient, and they don't accept that this is what it is? And in a case like that, how now do you handle it? Because there are those who will say, no, I don't believe what you're saying, I do not have it. So in cases like that, how do you handle it?
That is very true. Actually, that is a challenging part, when someone cannot accept, when someone is in denial. When you're in denial, it will be very challenging to actually treat it because you will not cooperate in the treatment. So this is where we need a lot of therapy and a lot of patience. So these people, we deal with them with a lot of patience, a lot of therapy, a lot of talking, and a lot of support, because now we need them to accept that they have this and that, because if you don't accept, you will not take the medications, and now you will relapse. You will experience the episodes again and again and again. So basically a lot of therapy, a lot of support from family and from friends, and let's just be graceful with these people, and let's tell them, let us let them know that you are not your condition. You can actually live a normal life like everyone else. You can get what we are getting. You are not different. Just be able to manage the condition.
What related health issues may crop up with bipolar disorder? Are we likely to see other mental health issues as well crop up when somebody has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder? Even if they are true to the routine and to the medication, are there any risk factors in terms of other related health issues cropping up?
Yes. People who have bipolar can, due to the shock and everything after receiving the news, they can develop other mental health issues like depression. We can see some of them want to commit suicide. We can see anxiety rise up. Those are the major ones that usually develop after the bipolar or are related to the bipolar, depression and anxiety.
Right. Okay. Now, I'll come back to social stigma now, because this society is yet to embrace mental health awareness completely, and now you've got bipolar disorder and other disorders that come in place, and so social stigma as well is one of the biggest challenges, because if somebody even thinks about what people will think when they hear that they have been diagnosed with this, or they have checked into a mental health facility, and there's that, as you've said, their crazy part that crops up. Can we avoid social stigma?
Yes, we can try to avoid social stigma. Number one is by educating the society. And the society starts from the smallest part, the family. The family makes up the society. And before the family, we have the individual. So we can, there are things that are encouraged, like family therapy. So when you have family therapy, your family is made to understand what exactly is bipolar and why do we have bipolar. Does it mean it's the end of your life? No. Does it mean it's the end of your career? No. You can continue with life as a normal person as long as you adhere to the medication. So when you talk to the family, when you educate the family, many families, 2 families, we can actually come up with talks talking about bipolar, educating, especially in churches. In churches is the place where everyone is found. And let's say someone gets an episode when they're in church, the first thing everyone will think is that it's demons. And it is sometimes it is very disheartening that we all think like that. And it's not, I will not say it is completely our fault. I am really standing with the people who are actually discriminative towards people with bipolar. This is because they do not know. Once you have the knowledge, you will actually start to act on the knowledge and behave in some type of way towards the knowledge. So let's educate the society so that we can reduce the stigma.
And I think one final aspect as well is on our health systems. And the unfortunate bit is that we are able to count how many mental health facilities are there in Kenya, because there are not so many if you really get into the statistics and how many there are in every of the 47 counties. And so how do we better our health systems in such a way that we're able to incorporate in a way that your insurance can actually get you help when you're diagnosed with this kind of thing? So how can we better our health systems just to incorporate all aspects of health, not just physical health but also mental health?
So number one, we can actually start by standing with each other. you know, we can be each other's support system. There are not many health facilities which are towards mental health, but mental health practitioners are very, very many, especially students who are studying psychology, those who have graduated, there are extremely many. I would encourage especially the students and people who are seeking jobs out there, not just to be in their comfort zones, but to get out and be the people that you're supposed to be. Talk to people. Organize some small crusades. Go and educate your family. Go and educate those young children in schools, everywhere. Just go and tell them about this and that, this disorder, so that we will, because there are people who completely do not have an idea. They do not know, and this is because we have not spread out the news that this and this exists. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Gloria Kuria, who's a psychologist, for coming in this morning to just shed more light about this particular disorder, bipolar disorder. And I'm actually looking at statistics from the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights, which estimates that 25% and 40% of outpatients and inpatients suffer from mental health conditions, including depression, bipolar disorders, substance abuse, stress and anxiety disorders. And I tend to feel like they're interlinking, you know, with anxiety, stress disorders, mental health, as well as depression and bipolar disorder. And so that is where we are at as a nation. 25%, 40%, that's a huge number of persons that check into hospitals and, you know, they are diagnosed with this. And so we can only hope that there's much more awareness around some of these health conditions like bipolar disorder. So that is where we wrap it up this morning. But I hope that you've really learned quite a lot. If you feel there's need for you to share this broadcast as well, you can share it across our social media platforms. Keep the conversation going, and we'd love to get in touch with you. If you'd love to reach out to Gloria here, you can as well leave us a text message and we'll be able to do so.